25,000 years ago, temperatures in Europe dropped to minus 20 degrees during the last glacial maximum, the coldest period modern humans ever faced. Ice sheets covered large parts of the continent, and the landscape looked more like present-day Siberia than Europe. In this frozen world, a small group of humans had one goal: survive the night. There was no heating, no insulated buildings, no outside help, only intelligence, preparation, and cooperation. Contrary to what early historians believed, they did not spend their lives deep inside caves. Instead, they built shelters. Frames made from mammoth bones and tusks formed the structure, covered with thick animal hides that were tightly sewn together. These shelters were partially dug into the ground to trap warmth, and snow was packed around the outside, not as a threat, but as insulation, because snow can hold heat surprisingly well. Inside, a small controlled fire created a fragile pocket of warmth. While just outside the shelter, the cold was deadly. That fire was the difference between life and death, and it could never go out. Throughout the night, one person stayed awake, carefully feeding the fire, managing the fuel, and watching the flame. If the fire died, the temperature would drop rapidly, and survival would become impossible before morning. The most dangerous time came just before sunrise, when the cold was at its peak, when the body's energy was nearly exhausted, and when the fire had consumed the easiest fuel. Those final hours were a test of endurance, yet they survived them, again and again, for thousands of years. Their survival was not based on luck. It was built on skill and knowledge passed through generations. Archaeological evidence shows they created advanced clothing using bone needles fine enough to stitch tight seams. This allowed them to design layered garments, an inner layer to move moisture away from the skin, a middle layer to trap body heat, and an outer layer to block wind and freezing air. This was not primitive survival. It was practical engineering adapted to extreme conditions. As dawn finally arrived, the fire was still burning, and the group was still alive. One human would step outside into the frozen air, breath visible in the cold silence, facing a world that had not changed, but they had made it through another night. We know they survived because we are here today. Every human alive descends from people who endured these conditions, who adapted, who learned, and who passed that knowledge forward. Even in the harshest environment, they created tools, art, and culture. They were not different from us. They simply lived in a far more demanding world, where survival depended on intelligence, discipline, and each other. Follow Primitive Earth Tales for a new survival story every day.